All right, hi everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can build a simple application on top of WebRTC to build a simple communication application through video calling, video conferencing, etc. If you've heard of applications like Zoom, Google Meet, which you most probably have done, I'm assuming because they have done online video meetings, conferencing, or classes during your COVID times, which you have done like in your online classes, you might be knowing about these software, but how they helps you to communicate live, real time with other users through using face-real communication through cameras. They use something called WebRTC and WebSockets. We're not going to go deeper into WebSockets, but we're going to talk a little bit about WebRTC because the video is based on that. And in the end, we're going to understand how you can build an application using WebRTC, a very simple application. Before starting it, I want to set up the ground by talking about an application known as WebMeet. You might have heard of it or you might not. Doesn't matter. You can probably go to the URL right here. You'll find it somewhere right here. And the application name is WebMeet, and I have created this application. It uses with some very complex structures out there. We don't go deep into it. I'm giving you a simple definition of it. It uses Next.js for the entire full stack. It is built by Vercel, a company, TypeScript by Microsoft, Tailwind CSS framework, Motion, Node.js, and the most important thing, WebRTC. What is WebRTC? WebRTC is Website Real-Time Communication System. The full form of this. It helps you communicate through peer-to-peer communication system from first person to the another person. If you want to learn more about it, you can probably go to the repo to understand the code base. But if you don't understand about it, you can probably search about WebRTC and you'll probably get some very good sites like webrtc.org, MDN WebRTC explanation. And you'll probably learn from it about what is WebRTC, what are WebRTC APIs. We are probably going to use WebRTC APIs in this video to build a simple, fairly meeting application on top of it. The video is going to be divided into several parts. Firstly, I'm going to understand you about the very basic architecture of the application, how we are going to build it. Second, we'll start upon some setting the application architecture. Thirdly, we're going to do some hand-holdy coding of it, in which my camera is going to be a little off because we're going to do it in hand-holdy fashion. And then in the end, I'm going to show you how you can host it over the internet and also explain a little bit. If you want to host into the real world, you probably need a database to create a token ID about it. We'll probably get to understand about it in the explanation section, the section one. With that, let's get into the explanation section. So firstly, we're going to talk about what is WebRTC. WebRTC is a web-based real-time communication system is that technology that enables web application and sites to capture and optimize streams, audios, and videos. Before starting, I want to set you some of the very basic examples of what WebRTC. If you've ever heard of an application like Zoom, you might be knowing it is a one-time platform connection communication with each other. It uses WebRTCs and WebSockets to do meetings and all. So you probably have knowing it how it even works, like communicating with either peer-to-peer communication. So what it does is basically, if you go to my like deployment section, I have deployed my application through using render. What is render? Ignore it. I've just deployed it, and the logs which are created of it, like the entries going into. For very basic, I'm going to take a finance-based example. Let's say you deposited some money in your bank account and then gave it access to one of your friend and told him to withdraw that money. What does happen if it's the HDFC bank account? What happens is HDFC does that add token credit of yours, and then when someone pulls it, it does a minus token someone else. So it basically creates some logs, plus one log of yours, minus logs of your friends. Similar way, what happens in a terminal when we do like several applications in AI, WebRTC, finance, and everything, there are some logs in history which get created when we use it. Similar to what this happens, like this is the log section. You will go, if I do a log entry here, like currently it is deployed, but I'm not using it. But if I would use it, it will take a certain sort of time to open it up. If I use it, it will show me the logs entries like someone joined, the log entry one, then he left or someone else joined like this way. It shows up me the log entry. With 2 minutes, I can show you that live as well. It will take a little second to load the application, but then I will show you this as well. Before that, if the time is taking to open it up, let's understand about a little bit about what are these. So what we are going to discuss most of the part is WebRTC API, streaming API, peer-to-peer communication systems. Before that, let's understand what is this API which we have mentioned up in the title. We have understand already that WebRTC is web real-time communication, but what is API? API is application programming interfaces. Very simple example of that is a lot of applications uses API keys. Example of API in terms of AI is, have you heard of ChatGPT, chatgpt.com? You go to chatgpt.com and ask it any question. Do you understand about LLMs? You probably do. What is LLM? Large language model. But an LLM is a very heavy database which is trained of a lot of data. You can't keep the entire LLM in a website and give it a front end of like ChatGPT which interact of great front end and then you can interact with it. It's not very possible. It become very heavy and the system might crash up even if you have the best machine in the world. There's no way possible. So what they do is they have stored the database in a very strong computer somewhere in the US, what OpenAI does. and they have taken an API key of it, put it in the backend of their simple website. So because of that, an API key is very lightweight, and we do peer-to-peer communication with it. Not to peer-to-peer, but like API communication with it. That's how API works. So it helps you to not to offload the entire model of yours into it. So WebRTC is a very holistic model. We're not going to use every part of it. We're just going to use the API key of that, and then use whatever part we want. We just want peer-to-peer communication, video conferencing, that's it, and maybe voice plus and minus as well. That's simple as that. That's why we use this API compared to offloading the entire model into our code base. It otherwise not very scalable at all. Now, as such our application has loaded up, we are going to use it, and I'll show you how it works basically. So this is a website. You can probably go up here. I'm going to create an instant meeting with a name, meeting name, demo. I'm going to create it. It has created. Now I'm only the one person who is in the meeting. Now I'm going to add another person to it, like copy the domain which is right here. Open this again. Now here, click into the join name, and I'm going to find as friend, or like we can do person to paste the domain ID which you have copied from here, join here, and I have joined with the second ID. Remove it. It's echoing because of like there are multiple mics in that. So like joining with the multiple IDs. There's a little bit of shrinking because of that. I'll show you. Again, I am using same camera for like the remote and server. That's why it's showing me multiple times again instead of on a second person, but you can do it. You understand what I'm talking about. And now here, if you go to the logs again and I'll refresh it, you'll see something new here. Now you can see the socket started. The socket started at the production of localhost 3000. I'll make you understand. When we do npm runtime, what is an npm? npm is a node module server, which we can, if we run, it runs on default by local 3001, localhost colon 3001. You can change it as well, but the default is 3001. Now it is showing it started user connected room at this. This is our room, which is at this URL, which is right here. The front end and the back end URLs are a little bit different so that no one can hack it, basically. The reason for that. The room is this, created by Suryanshu Navid, is my name, host, which I put it up there. So whatever name you put in there, the admin access, it will user connected. This is the second user which connected, and now it is two users in the room. It is showing this log. If I add or if I remove this person, let's say I've mentioned here, I left the second user. Now there's only one user in the room, which is me, Suryanshu Navid. Now if I refresh it again, it will add another log right here, which shows that user disconnected. Now there's only one user in the room. Probably have to write the logic of here that you have to do this log, that log, whatever. But this is the logic of whatever it is. This is actually not the front end. Everybody can't access it. Only I am the access because I'm the developer of it. I have developed it. So that's for the reason. I can show you the logs that who used it. I can probably have the database as well to see the recording of the users. Probably haven't done it. I'm not the shady business, but yeah, you understand. You got it what it is. So now we're going to talk about a little bit about what our API we're going to access up. We are going to use RTC peer connection APIs. And you can probably go to the docs, it's very big, so I'm not going to take the holistic time of it. So WebRTC, what are our tech stack to do it? We are going to use simple HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and WebRTC APIs. See, these are the four things we're going to use. Again, WebRTC APIs is written in three JavaScript file only. So we are going to open a terminal, initialize a basic project, empty project, and then from there, I'm going to like, let me just go to my downloads folder, NPDR, create a folder as Zoom. What is NKDIR? Creating a directory, then moving to Zoom folder. What these all are the bash commands. If you want to learn more about it, let me know. I have no file. So if I've done ls is a command which basically helps me to list down whatever files and folders I have. Now I'm going to use a touch command to create a file. Now I have one file, index.html. I'll do another touch command to create script.js. I have two files, and now I'll do another command named styles.css. Now I have three files, which is all I need. Now I'll do code dot, and it will open my code in Cursor or your preferred IDE. If you want me to do it in Visual Studio Code, I can probably do it in VS Code as well. No issue at all. I'm using Cursor, my personal favorite IDE. The reason for that is I like the UI much more compared to VS Code, but it personal preferences. Like you guys know what we want to use. If you want to use VS Code, you probably use that. If you want to use Cursor, you can use that, or whatever IDE. If you want to use NeoWeb, it's the best way to do it. Now I'm going to start the second section of it. Probably going to start just a second. And in that way, the camera is going to be closed. I'm going to code it completely. I'm not going to explain much of it. After the coding part, I'll explain it to you guys what I'm doing, what I've done up until this point, and with that, we'll go from there. And in the end, I was going to explain about databases, hosting of it through Vercel. What is Vercel? Vercel is a platform which allows us to host our application. And as you like go up here, like in my Ruby code base, you saw that I told you about Next.js. I've used framework of Next.js, right here, and Next.js is developed by Vercel. So if you're building an application which is on top of Next.js, the best way to deploy it is using Vercel only. Yeah. So a lot of talks. Now, if you can probably go up here. I'll probably show you my dashboard. This is my dashboard. These are all the deployments I've done. These are all the applications I've deployed. My personal domain section, my portfolio, InnovateX, you might probably knowing if you're a Gannett student. Probably yes. Go up to this URL and you'll find the website which I have built it up using Next.js again. This is the entire website. And all the deployments I can see, the logs and everything. If you go to like here are logs available. Like I use two platforms for deployment. Number one is Vercel, number two is render. Vercel doesn't support backend. So if you're making a very complex application which has front end, back end database, probably makes sense for you to use render for free. If you're just building a front end application, probably makes sense for you to use Vercel. If you're interested in next year. Here, these are the logs. It doesn't have a lot of logs because again, you got it. It is not a backend application. You don't need much logs, simple logs of creating and using a page. That's it. Now the harder bit start of coding. I'm going to code in three files: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML, CSS might be a little easier. JavaScript might be a little harder. In the end, I might code a few logic in front of you guys, and then we'll go from there. Building the application into it. I'll show you how you can do meeting in my device in a single holistic device. And apart from it, if you want to do it in two different devices, then you probably need an ID key, a database. Why a database? Let's say if I created a room in my device, name as demo room. But the other user which is joining on that URL, that device doesn't know that this URL or this ID actually exists. He will feel like it's a dummy ID and it's not work. So we need a database that both the device helps us know that this person created, so you can use it. It's correct, and if you join it, you'll get rendered to that person's user ID room ID. So for that, we need a database. I've already created a code base and I'll make you understand in Superbase. Where's the easier way to do? Use an API of Superbase. Probably can do it from there. I'm going to write a basic code of that as well in the end, but yeah, there you go from it. It's not hard to do it. Integrating a database, the harder bits are, using the WebRTC API, building application into and yeah, we'll go from there. So let's start the coding a bit. The second section, I'll meet you there. All right. Hi everyone. Welcome to the part two of the video. We're going to start the coding the application into an. The coding is going to be a little bit hand holding and a little oddish. So you're not going to see me. It's just the entire coding screen. So focus on the coding part, how I'm writing the logic. It's going to be a pretty fast forwarded video because I won't waste much time on writing code because most of you might won't be able to understand what it is because mostly are beginners in coding. So don't focus on the coding part. Either you can skip this part or else if you want to watch, probably you can to understand a little bit of logic. But mostly learning you get it from the explanation part only, what I've written, how it is even works, how does it render to the application by removing it and then adding it probably helps make sense for you. And the best part is to, go to the GitHub, follow up the profile, download it, code base basically, follow up it, download it, and then try to understand it from it. Or you can ask AI or ChatGPT to understand. And if you have a CS or IT teacher, you can probably a gate. The best part, to understand from him if he had a basic knowledge of WebRTCs, front and back end and all. Yeah, with that, let's get started. Alrighty, folks, done with the coding logic of it. I've already coded with CSS. The reason why I skipped that part and I fast forwarded, the reason for that is there's a lot of new styling which I've done, which you might not necessarily need at this point, but I want to make it prettier to make it look a bit better for the further experience you're going to have on. So that's why I've coded a bit more, and I've also coded the most appropriate logic of JavaScript, which you guys, most of the logic I've already coded. It's not like most, some of the logic is still missing. There are still a bunch of errors here and then I have to figure it out because according to my what my mind says, it's almost complete. But when I do go to the application and try to do it, let's say if I'm creating a new meeting, it's not working, some of the logic are not working. Like there are a bunch of logical failure errors and I've already fixed it. So probably have to figure it out together. We'll probably find it out. And thought that fix it. And I'm going to write the code again with the hand-holding fashion. And then in the end, I'll probably try to show you guys what is the end result going to be. So yeah, that's pretty much. Let's get started with scripting, which is the most harder of it. You guys won't be able to understand anything about it if you don't have to study JavaScript right here. But probably I'll try to make it you understand in the end and how it probably works because the working part of it is the most important thing which helps you understand what's the application into doing. Also, so that is the start. It's still yeah. Alright guys, I added a little bit of polishing and the code was pretty much unexpectedly messed up. So I figured it out pretty well and resolved all the issues. There was some syntax issue here and there, so I resolved them all. It's pretty complex to write a JavaScript code, which is pretty long. So we have made all the team meetings and all that, and I've added very small comments. It's not very big to explain the code base, but it's pretty much well to make you understand because you guys will not be interacting much with JavaScript, so it will help you to make you understand about that. Now let's try the application. There were some issues, but now it's fine. Let me show you through a new tab. It's there were no issues around, and it would send any request. It won't be appear in the network tab. Now let's start. Allow. Here I'm the first person. Copy the ID. Open again. Again. They both are opening the same time. Simply that this doesn't have any database. We don't have any idea that this both are the same browsers or not. Join. So I've joined up with the same URL and same ID basically, and I've been joined up with the same meeting. So yeah, that's sort of all about it. How to create a Zoom meeting skill sort of application. Isn't it cool? It's cool. I feel like it's pretty cool. Um, Let me show you very quickly how I wrote the JavaScript. Simple and these are the some of the stunts. If you know what that are, those are known as stun servers. Probably you know what you can in the Google. These are all the stats which I have let local stat null peer connection why. You can keep it, but I'm not using the original database colons backend or something. You can probably use it. These are all blocked. As I said in the beginning of the video, there are a lot of things that WebRTC under the hood, but we are not using everything. That's why they are null. Initialize media, update status. When someone joins, it's connected, not. The IDs are between of 9 digits only from starting from this to this, between any random numbers of this. Creating a peer connection, how do we create, how to handle a remote networking, the tracking, and everything. It's written with a proper commenting. Probably can go it from there. It wasn't that clean. It was very blunt up. So I took a little bit of off-camera time to clean the code base because it was pretty much messed up. You guys won't be able to understand it. It was working, but it was pretty much messed up. So I sort of took some time, cleaned the code base, and I was pretty fine to understand it. Let me know if you guys understand about it. If you want to get into code base, probably you can. Uh, the uh, Yeah, there's the URL. But you can probably go to the GitHub URL in my profile and slash Zoom. This is the name of the project. Probably you can go to there, find it out from there. You can sort of find the code base there and you can understand what I have written in there. Yeah, that's all for this one. Let me know if you guys find it an insightful video. And yeah, that's all about it. All the front end. And again, one basic standout right here is that if you want to add a super base sort of thingy, how would you add that? Because right now I'm using the same profile, that's why it's working. But if I would deploy it over to the internet, like let's say like this, I'm not going to deploy it, but you got it, right? If I would deploy it, then it won't work. The reason why it won't work in the internet, because my device has, let's give an example with Excel raw. All right, this is my device, and this is the secondary device of mine. Mm, Okay, so this PC created an ID. So this computer knows that this is their room ID, but this computer doesn't have any idea of whether that room ID exists or not. If we would have a parallel database here, which will this device won't store the real, this will store it. Just a second, guys. Yeah, it will store all the IDs, so they both can parallelly connect with it, and it will be accessible to all the devices. So there will be no any issue for any sort of a computer to connect with each other. That's peer-to-peer communication to turn to a database. What are these? Probably you can use MongoDB. You can use Superbase. The easiest way I would suggest is Superbase. You can also use Firebase. I'm not going to talk much about it. You guys know already about it. All sort of these things. But yeah, that's all about it. We can do much with it. I already committed a super base repo on top of it. Let me just show you that as well. How you can sort of create it. And yeah, let's go to the super base setup and then the config. I'm not going to write the code again. You can probably just going to explain because it's very simple. First, write the code. What is the code? The config, the API calls, the domain, database URL, project ID, start bucket, and some other API calls. Go to the Firebase local dashboard, Firebase console. I'm using Firebase. You can use Superbase. Firebase, the easiest one. Probably a lot of people knows about it. That Firebase Firebase. Create a project, get an ID, get your API key, set up the database, and then probably fill it up in your config.js, run the code base in the real time. Again, don't deploy to the intranet because your API key might be leaked that way. So use an .env file in that way. What is a .env file? This is a .env file. If I would put my Superbase credentials right here, this is let's say my Superbase. This is my Superbase API key. Alright? Or if I want to know key, then like when I'm committing this code to GitHub, this won't be visible. This will only be visible to me in my local code base. How would I do it? I would write a git ignore and then I'll put here .env. If I put this, you can see all these files are here, light blue, and but this is the simplest gray. Why this is gray? And there's also a symbol right here, which is a blocking, which means if I would commit this code to GitHub, GitHub will ignore this file and will won't commit it because this is a private file. This way, I don't need to make my keys public by putting it into config.js. I can put it into .env file. But after this, it will come as if someone else wants to use this like structure, he has its own env file. How would he do it? Like if he wants to use his own Superbase file, how would he do it? Because we don't have any env file. So how would he get the idea what are the API keys we have to put in, what are not? He'll be just juggling out in the entire code base. No, you can probably copy this, put it in here with your API key. So if someone will, this won't be committed. This is like you can probably set it up here that the .env file won't be committed. Only .env.example won't be committed. .env only be paused. .env.example will be committed. So if anyone wants to see how would I run this code, he should probably see the code, run the HTML file, go to the .env file, see, oh, I need a Superbase key. He will go to the supervised dashboard, get his API key, come back, create his own env file, put it there and use it. This way, you don't need to surpass or bypass your own keys. Everybody will hold their own keys if they are using it. And for the general users, they will use a deployed version, which is probably your key, deployed version. You can probably set up the key in the WordFile dashboard or like other platforms as well. How to set up very basic GUI thing, you can probably do it. This is how a basic sort of a knowledge about it, how you can set up the API key, databases, building a WebRTC application. You probably saw it how I built it. It's not too hard, but if you're building it, juggling it from fundamentally, you might suffer a little bit because a lot of things comes in the picture. If I won't focus a lot about the front end and UI, I would have built it in less than probably 1.5, probably one less than 1.5, 2.5. But I sort of focus more on the UI because the UI which we are using right here, this sort of UI, it looks pretty cool. Like doesn't it? Like this is the home page. You can probably enter the IDs. Then this is what it is. Like these things sort of matters a lot, and this way took up a lot of my time. And yeah, this is all about it. Probably you can build up the code somehow like this, or we can go to the GitHub and check out the code base as well, how I've written it. And this would be an insight to learn from the video. Hopefully, let me know if this was an insightful video or not. And if you want more of these, or if you want a video on bash commands, let me know. With that, we'll end it. I'll see you guys. Bye bye. Yeah, alrighty.